Oh, I actually need my phone because I need to be able to refer back to your email. I'll just put it down.
Yes, that
Um,
is what I'm doing at the moment as well. It's just
okay, so I mean, there's some that we've spoken about before, which is kind of the
mm,
whys and the wisdom. I think when we were doing the Seeking Wisdom series, wisdom came up quite a lot about what that meant. I think I was more curious in this positives one. So positives don't look after themselves, and I think I'd like to explore that one a little bit with you. I've probably got my own little stories to add to it.
yeah. So look, it's just one of those things that if things are going well, we expect them to continue to go well.
hmm
So if I'm healthy today, I'm expecting that I'm going to be healthy tomorrow, etc. It's probably one of the simplest examples. If things go well in a job, you expect
Yeah,
things to continue to go well. But my point is that we also know from experience that everything doesn't keep on going great forever.
yeah,
Um, the things that keep on going well for a long time are the things that you actually pay attention to.
hmm
The same way that, if you pay attention to if you have a toothache or whatever the case may be, is you pay attention to something and then you improve. Now, if we if we pay enough attention to the positives, that means that we um, increasing the probability of that positive continuing to be positive for a longer period now.
yeah,
And that was just the basic premise, and that's kind of like, what are the positive things in my life that I have to pay attention to and maintain, um, so that I continue to stay positive.
yeah.
That was my thinking. Uh,
Okay.
so, what do you want to add to that?
Well, I was just thinking I'll go back to probably a year ago when I started maybe a bit longer, my reading challenge and the reading one chapter a day and how beneficial that was to me. And that I've definitely stopped reading or concentrating on reading one chapter a day. And I can see how much more difficult it is to keep up that habit, and I lose
Okay.
it much quicker. So I think it's one of those things that I could see, and I spoke about it quite openly here, what a huge impact it had on my mental health and um, just on my general mood and how I was feeling, um, and so I would like to get back into that habit because there's books that
Yeah.
I am currently reading. I'm busy reading 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson and Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. Um, and both of those I kind of like jump in and out of now, and I'm not as committed to it, and I can feel that I'm struggling to get through them. Where when I read Atlas Shrugged, which is a much more difficult book to read, and I was committing to my
Yeah.
chapter a day, I got through it really quickly, and I don't know, I'm just thinking that's one of the things that I need to reinforce as a positive in my life.
So, question I have, when you say that when you first started it and you managed to kind of keep to that discipline of a chapter a day,
hmm
and it helped improve your mental health, your mood, your was it was it the fact that you maintained a habit, or was it a fact that you read and you learned from what you were reading? Do you think there's a
Yeah.
distinction between what what
Yeah, I think so.
what contributed most?
I think it was probably both, but more so the being able to create a habit and stick to it and feel like you've reached something. And there's definitely that kind of that winning feeling when you finish a book
Yes.
after committing to it and being able to check it off a list and I've finished this book, put it back on the bookshelf and pick another one up. So yeah, there was definitely that side of it.
And you also exceeded your expectations in the beginning. I mean, you
Yeah.
zipped through books
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
But then, so I think maybe part of the reason that I slowed down is because I read so many books in a short space of time that when I thought back to, so one of the ones that kept coming up was The Untethered Soul, I couldn't really remember everything that had been in that book because I think I had read so much since then that it was hard to recall what I'd read. So, um, I think I needed to find the balance of being a bit more focused and picking the right books and but there is something about the habit that I'm missing.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily that habit, when that is a good habit to maintain.
Yeah.
Um, but the fact that you had a habit which
Yeah.
you could feel like, I can stick to this and I can exceed at this and I can
Yeah.
actually get other value out of it. Tell me, just another question, on, you said that got to a point where you felt like I couldn't remember everything I read. How important is it to you to remember everything that you read?
No, it's not that important. I mean, some of the things I read, I suppose it's what your brain clings to or what matters to you that's important. So, um, yeah, it's not that important. But there are certain books that I read in the beginning that I enjoyed so much that I want to go back and read again. So at
Mm,
least I suppose I have which ones I enjoyed, which ones I thought were good, and I can go back and read them again when I'm
okay.
ready to. So, yeah. I still
Because
think it
that
was
is
a
some,
really good thing that I did, a good challenge, and getting through all those books was great. And like
sure.
I say, now I know which ones I would go back and read a second time.
Anyway, the point I was going to make is that something that I hear quite often is people rereading books that resonate with them. So I myself I have read, I think I've read 12 Rules for Life. I think I've read it 3 times now. I have a couple of other books that I kind of go back to, put them on Audible and listen to them again. Um, and and that was why I asked the question whether, how important is it to you to remember as much as possible? Obviously, we can't remember everything, but I find value in kind of listening to it for a second or a third time, because then I know which parts maybe I want to pay a little bit more attention to.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so are you getting back into the reading habit
Um, I wouldn't say I'm getting
in
back into
autumn?
it yet, but I'm definitely focused on it. I have the books next to my bed, and I think the other thing is that some of my bad habits have crept back in. So the endless scrolling on my phone and playing
Okay,
silly games on my phone when I have some spare time rather than picking up a book and reading.
okay,
So there's also the replacing the bad habits with the good habits, which I need to get back to.
okay. That's interesting. Yeah. Um, yeah. Look, I'm not so sure about that classification of a bad habit and a good habit. Because um, do you not think that sometimes we call something a bad habit just because that seems to be the popular view? Um, so I don't know. Endless scrolling. I mean, if you neglect your duties or your job, whatever, and so on, that might be problematic.
Yeah.
But I suppose it comes down to, do you get value out of it? Like, I feel like I can sometimes spend an hour or two on X and not feel like I've wasted my time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, so I don't constantly and continuously do that. But I'm not clear if I don't think I'm making my point clear in terms of don't necessarily call it a bad habit
Hmm.
just because it's endless scrolling.
Yeah.
I think you must be clear for yourself about what is it that you get out of it.
Yeah.
Is it purely just killing time? Then it's probably not a great thing.
Yeah.
But if you find some value out of it, you learn something out of it, then I don't necessarily think of it as a bad habit.
Okay. So what were your positives you were thinking about when you wrote that?
Look, it's the usual suspects. It's the healthy stuff. Why do I exercise? So that I can exercise. It's as simple as that. Um, and, you know, and then kind of looking at finer details of certain aspects of health and so on. Why do you pay so much attention to each of these little elements and so on? It is the idea to try and learn something every day. You know, so these are kind of like the positives that I was thinking about in in terms of making sure I can I can maintain that.
Yeah.
I can keep doing that for as long as I possibly can.
Hmm.
Wasn't anything spectacular,
This one was,
promise you that.
yeah, this one was interesting. 480. That I was quite shocked by that. I didn't do the calculation myself afterwards, but just reading it is it's like quite shocking. So this is the number of salary payments the average person will earn in a lifetime if employed full time for their adult life. It's not that many. It's not.
Yeah, so you say you were shocked when you read that. Is it because it felt like the number is much smaller than?
Yeah, that feels like a really small number of salary payments.
So that is 40 years. 40 times 12.
Yeah, and I'm
Simple calc.
15 years
Simple
in,
calc.
so not
Shit.
much left.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
There we go. So even if you make it 25 years, well, it's another 60. That makes it 540. But it's quite interesting to look at numbers. Now, I'm just quickly looking at see if I can find something here. Yep. Um, if you live for 60 years, that is only 720 months. That is only 3,120 weeks. It's only 21,900 days. And it's only 525,600 hours.
yeah,
So it's quite interesting, because we look at these things and you say, well, in this case, 60 years. Sounds like a hell of a long time. But the moment that I go and put it into months, start thinking, hang on,
yeah,
720 months, that doesn't sound like a hell of a lot. If you start chopping off, the first, I don't know, 24, 36, 48, 60 months of your life where you were just kind of like figuring out how to stay alive,
yeah,
the first 10 years of your life, first 20 years of your life, and then see the actual number of months that you have. And I mean, we were just talking about endless scrolling and wasting time. It's like we have all of these hours available to us, but in 60 years, it's barely 500,000 hours.
yeah,
It's not a lot. Anyway, so obviously the thinking behind that was that people um, yeah, we could talk about instant gratification, etc., etc. But I want stuff now. I want to live now. I want to, I don't know, buy stuff, experience stuff, etc. But not thinking about how many paydays do I have left.
Yeah.
And just trying to put things in a little bit more context. Um, the quote that I put in there that said that the real minimum wage was, is, and always will be zero. E.J. Anthony is an American economist. Um, we kind of hear all these demands made by um, uh, workers. Um, we see politicians jumping on the bandwagon, obviously trying to appeal to citizens, um, and use things like minimum wage, etc., etc.
Hmm.
Um, and I did a little bit of a breakdown, obviously, in the South African context here, in terms of people don't really understand how the economy works. And the responsibility that you have if you are lucky enough to get 480 paychecks in your lifetime
Yeah.
to act responsibly with that. Um, Look, that doesn't mean that you can't have fun. It doesn't mean that you can't buy the car. It doesn't mean that you can not go on the holiday. None of these things. But I really wish people would take it a little bit more seriously,
Hmm.
um, especially younger people. Go, well, this is my time now. I want to live now. I want to do all of these
Yeah.
things. So
Yeah.
I'll start saving later. I'll start, you know, planning later, etc., etc.
Hmm.
And then it's too late. It's always too late.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was just, you know, we again, we're sitting in this um, scenario now where, like I said, I tried to give a little bit of South African context there, but the governments and government employees, name a country, I would I would guess that most countries have a much, much larger percentage of the population that work as government employees than you would think necessary.
Hmm.
Um, and if we only have 7.1 million taxpayers, individual taxpayers in South Africa, and of those, 1.8 million are government employees.
That's
So
a lot of government employees.
it is a hell of a lot of government employees.
Yeah.
I, and again, like I say, I think pick a country. President of Argentina, I think, trying to slash it by at least 50%, the number of employees in the government. He abolished complete departments. I think in the US, we will find that the number of government employees, if you get all federal and state employees, it will also be about, I don't know, 20% of the pop. Anyway, these are freaking huge numbers.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I want people to just pay a little bit more attention to how things work, what
Yeah.
your responsibilities as an individual
Yeah. There's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of, like you mentioned, the living in the now. There's like that balance about, and it's always been a thing for me since I was young and I set up my retirement annuity. It was like I had a retirement annuity and a life insurance policy in South Africa. And it was like one of these that I'm putting money into every month I'm never going to use.
Yeah,
That's but it was
but
just yeah, it was just that thing about
it
like
is the
how you
cheapest.
balance enjoying your life
Yeah,
now and also saving for the future.
correct. Like I say, living in the now, living for the moment and enjoying the moment, etc. All of these things are really important as
Yeah,
well. I'm not saying put off living,
yeah,
but you know, you also have to kind of you have to live within your means.
yeah,
It seems like that is also gone out of fashion to say, listen,
yeah.
we are not all Kardashians. We are not
I blame
all.
banks and credit card companies. The way that they push like that you can get credit for up to a stupid amount of money that you definitely can't afford. Um, and I know lots of people who get caught in the credit card trap.
So why do you blame the banks? So in the same way, you should also then say that you blame liquor stores for alcoholics, and you blame McDonald's for
Yeah.
obesity, and you
No, it's
you hear what I'm
definitely
saying?
up
It's
to
just like,
individuals to understand how it all works. But I mean, the interest rates on credit cards are like ridiculous. 30%,
yes,
you know,
yes,
a lot of money. And I don't think people understand when they're spending on the credit card what that means.
that's the problem.
Yeah,
That's the problem, is people do not take um, the time and effort to actually figure out how much they are paying for things, how much it is actually costing them
yeah.
to spend on credit,
And you get stuck
um,
in the debt because
very, very quickly.
once you're in the debt, you're just paying back the interest all the time and never able to actually repay it. Yeah,
Correct. Unless you obviously take up the offer
another
from the other bank
another credit
that
card.
also.
I mean, that's a clever thing to do.
But look, I agree with you. It's
Yeah,
unhealthy. I cannot believe that they are allowed to operate in the way that they
yeah,
operate. But that is more from a moral standpoint. It's not from
yeah.
a legal business standpoint.
But you know what's crazy? I had to move some of my crypto out of Luno and into a wallet here, and you have to go through tests. You have to tell them what your income is, how much of your money you plan to invest in risky investments. Like before they'll even allow you to open an account on this platform. But credit
Yeah.
card companies are giving loans of £15,000 to people who are not able to pay it back. Um,
Yes.
so I just find it crazy that the crypto, you have to jump through hoops to be able to manage your own money. um, but they'll give you a credit card loan without you having to answer a test or
Correct.
yeah,
Um, no, look, definitely a hell of a lot wrong. I mean, and those are just credit cards. I mean, and then you get to these payday loans,
yeah,
um, buying, what do they call it? There's a couple of names now
yeah.
for it. Um,
It's like buying a
we actually,
TV or something.
like lay-by, lay-by. So in other words, you can pay 3, 4 installments short, where you don't have to jump through these hoops. Like you said, it's very, very risky. It's obviously going to, for most people, it ends in, I don't know, some financial hardship along the way. But I think for society as a whole, it is definitely not going to end well.
Should should we move on to your last happy topic?
Oh, my word. Yes.
Okay, War and Peace. I'm going to let
Mm.
you read it out because I can't pronounce the battle.
Oh, okay, cool. I think the first documented war in history is considered to be the Battle of Megiddo, which took place around 1457 BCE. Since at least then, there's always been conflict somewhere on the planet. In other words, peace remains as elusive as unicorns. Why? I mean, that is a serious question I have. Is why do we have Was it necessary to have constant conflict on the planet? Um, and then I kind of ended there with, do you get the feeling that more and bigger is on the horizon? Because certainly I certainly feel that it is on the horizon. Um, I there's a lot of talk in European countries at the moment, um, which I feel is not healthy and about to escalate things. I'm talking about France and Germany, talking about maybe they will send troops into Ukraine.
Hmm.
Um, that is not healthy. It's not going to. Anyway, so, but what I was thinking is why, as humans, I'm not saying that um, no war is justified. I do believe that there are wars that are justified. But I think the concept that we get lulled into this kind of idea that oh, there was the First World War and there was the Second World War and that was it. Other
Hmm.
than that, there was a little skirmish in Vietnam, and it's not like that. I mean, there's been these massive, massive wars. I don't even think World War One and World War Two qualify as the bloodiest of all wars. I haven't kind of looked that up, but my point is just that you know, there's in all of the history of the United States of America, there's only I think 7 years that it wasn't involved in a war somewhere, like perpetual war machine.
Yeah.
Um, now, I don't know whatever your political beliefs are kind of irrelevant here. Is why do we as humans have this um, propensity to want to attack somebody else?
Mm.
And I honestly don't have the answer for that. But I do think it's something that we must consider and think about, especially now when so many countries are at the point of electing leaders, well, voting for some kind of something, um, which will then kind of set the tone for the next period, which is generally 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Um, and it concerns me as somebody who prefer, like I think most people on the planet, peace,
Yes. Yeah, that would be great.
peace and prosperity, rather
Yeah.
than war and carnage and uh, all of the things that go with it. Anyway, it was just the the idea, the fallacy that um, there's one or two bad people out there and they cause wars. No, throughout the history of mankind,
Hmm.
there's always been war.
Yeah. Yeah. I've
And
joked.
on that cheerful note,
I was going to say, I've joked about we need the aliens to come so that we have something we can all
yes,
unite together and we need
100%. It'll be
another.
so short lived. It'll be so short lived.
Yeah.
Um, can you remember? Probably can't remember. There was a TV series way back when called V,
I never saw it. I vaguely remember it, but I never watched it.
but that was about the aliens kind of landing.
There's one on
But
Netflix at the moment which is really good. Really good.
third body problem.
Yes.
I started watching that.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's really good. I think I've got two more
okay,
episodes before the end of the season, but I'm enjoying it. I like the concept.
okay,
Yeah, it's good.
okay. Anyway, yeah. So no, look, it's just like I said, something that concerns me, and I think people should give a little bit more thought to,
Yeah.
especially when you have the opportunity to go and vote for who is going to lead us for the next 5 years or 4 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us again, Herman. And
thank you. It was good
well,
to catch up again.
yeah, nice to catch up. Thank you so much. Until next time.
Cool.